Okay, today we're going to review the real estate purchase contract. And I say that with so much excitement because that's what everybody wants to review in the morning. I know, okay? So we're doing this because, one, we've never done it, and outside of in the moment. Now, in the moment is probably when people pay most attention, but let's go ahead and try and learn something proactively. Now, who's reviewed this in a training outside of today? We all should have been in a real estate training. They used to have a class that was basically, it says how not to go to jail. And it was a great title for the real estate purchase contract. It's like how to fill it out properly, what not to do, what to do. Okay? So just to cover our bases, I am on the MLS right now. And the MLS is, I'm in the forms part of the MLS. And so all you got to do to find the form that you want is you go real estate purchase. And now there's addendum to the real estate purchase contract, assignment of interest addendum, assumption addendum to the real estate purchase contract, FHA loan addendum to the real estate purchase contract. There's a lot of real estate purchase contract documents. So lead-based paint, so when do we use that one? 1979 and earlier. Multiple offers addendum. That refers to if you're going to tell everybody that's submitted an offer that you've received multiple offers, you get that signed. There's commercial. There's one for this one is the one we're talking about right here. And then there's one there's a real estate purchase contract that the MLS has for commercial, for land, and for new construction. Now, generally, let's go back. New construction, almost every builder has their own. But if you're dealing with a small builder, then you may write one up. Land, again, it's different than existing real estate, and commercial is definitely different as well. So seller financing addendum, that's if you want to get the seller to give them a loan. Short sale addendum, and simultaneous closing to real estate purchase contract. Okay, so a lot's there. So what we're going to focus on today is simply the residential real estate purchase contract. So we click on that, and here it is.
You're having a lot of fun.
Okay, well, the greatest thing about a real estate purchase contract is when you fill it out, you can auto-populate. Is everybody familiar with auto-populate?
Yes, sir.
So when I click on it, just for redundancy here, we have, if you basically have a previous listing, or sorry, not the previous, if you have the current listing, right, you put the MLS number and you hit load, and it's going to load all the information that's within there. Kind of saves you just a couple of minutes of input. Okay. If you want to put your buyers' names in there or sellers' names, you can do that manually right here, and then hit. And then once you fill it all, you hit this. That drop down comes, and then everything would be filled out. So where that saves a little bit of time is where you fill out inclusions. It'll auto-populate what's included, what's not.
Doesn't matter if it's in black or blue? No.
Auto-populate will do. If you fill it out in here, it'll come out blue.
No, well, you get right here, you get a new selection, printed color fields black or blue. I personally like it when it's
blue,
so it stands out. Stands out to your clients, stands out to everybody. The one thing about the real estate purchase contract is that when you're using this contract, the reason why they went with one contract is that they're all the same. Like, you don't have to guess whether somebody modified this paragraph, because remember, we're not lawyers, so I can't sit here and say, oh my gosh, it says cooktop here and you took that out. You know, it's all right here for everybody, and it makes it very simple for everybody to know exactly what's in the contract. So once you know what's in the contract, all you have to do is look at the blue ink, right? What's been manipulated? Okay, so is it okay to hand fill this out, or do you have to always digitally?
And fill
You
it
can
out.
fill it out.
Yeah, hand fill it out is great. But you gotta be careful though. What if you make a mistake?
You gotta start over.
After we do it.
You literally have to start over.
You can't cross anything out.
Nope. So if I'm like, Andrew, can you spell your name? I'm like,
Niner.
and I just go like ANDRAW. I'm like, oh man, just hold on, let me just erase that.
Make it some white.
You're done. You have to reprint page 1. Say that again. So you make any mistake, you can't modify it. So that's one thing about the contract. They go over, this is one of the most emphasized aspects of the contract. There is no crossing out. Oh darn it, I put a 0 here. Let me just fix that. You can't do that. It's a modified contract. Because the thing is you don't know whether you did it when you first wrote it, or whether you did it 10 days after you wrote it.
Right.
And it was manipulated. So, and people say, well, I'll just initial and date it, and then I'll have the seller initial and date it.
That's the old way.
That is, yeah, technically at some point that was kind of a common acceptance, but they've now taught us to say, you know, they learn these things by going to court, right? So they go to court, and it's he said versus she said, you know, it's buyer versus seller, agent versus seller, you know, it gets really messy. And ultimately they have to go, remember, all real estate is written contracts. So it's what's in the contract, not what we spoke about.
That's the beauty about having digital leads. You can send them over to them and there's no mistakes and stuff set up on there, and you can send it back if you have to. Instead of having to wrap paper, reprint it out, do all that stuff. Nice.
Yep. Okay, so I like digital. It's also easy to read. Some people's writing, you're like, seriously? Like, you wrote a contract and I can't even read it? I'm like, no. You're like, try not to be a doctor right now. You know, just like, it's like your spelling contest where you're just really neat. Okay. All right, so let's go through this. I was going to say quickly, but that's kind of an oxymoron with the contract. So let's start with paragraph 1. Real estate earnest money. Okay. All right. Well, actually, even before that, that's actually kind of an important paragraph. Chris, you want to read that?
This is legally binding real estate purchase contract, Rep C. Utah law requires real estate licensors to use this form. Buyer and seller, however, may agree to alter or delete its provisions or to use a different form. If you desire legal or tax advice, consult your attorney or tax advisor.
Okay, so the basic point is you got to use this. We are not allowed to fill out any other real estate contract form outside of these approved forms. It's so we talked about scope of your practice. It's outside your scope. So don't fill it out. Say, great. If you want to use a different contract, you can go to your lawyer, have him draft up something, and then submit it. One of the common things is like someone disagrees with this, and they're like, just cross that out. Just cross that section where it says that I pay for title. I don't want to pay for title. Just cross it out. You say I can't. We can write up an addendum that says you can't pay, that you won't pay for title, but we're not going to cross it out here.
Don't touch it.
Yeah, so you can't touch these things. Anything that's modified can be modified in an addendum. But you also have to be careful with addendums because now you're writing legal language, and that's tricky. I've written stuff that I thought was like, okay. And so I was, you know, I thought it meant something, and then someone else read it and they thought it meant something else, you know, when you get in trouble. So you got to be careful with that. For that reason, there's a lot of standardized language within the real estate contract that can be uploaded to it. We'll go over that. Okay, so we have to use this. Okay, so first paragraph here. Again, you're going to write, this is the offer date. This is the date in which the offer is made. All right. Some of the challenges with this is it's 9 o'clock at night. your client tells you to put an offer together, you're putting it together, so what was yesterday, the 20th, right? And then they don't sign it until tomorrow morning. Okay, so now it's fundamentally wrong, because the offer date wasn't the 20th, it's now the 21st, and so now you gotta correct that.
Most people don't.
What's wrong with it?
I'm gonna teach you the correct way, though. I'm being recorded, Carol. No, so the correct way is the offer date should be the date in which they signed it, and it's also the date in which you present it to the sellers or buyer. I guess we're presenting it to the seller, right, as a buyer. So know your client. Like, if you're gonna get the signatures, but you're not gonna present it until tomorrow, just write that date, and then they can sign it the night before, and then just present it on that day.
If you do DocuSign, you could just update it and resend it, right?
No, like you can't edit that.
The
On
date,
DocuSign.
before they sign it?
You have to edit it, I think,
The
here,
date,
right?
the date on DocuSign is going to default to the time and to the day and hour in which they digitally signed it.
So you don't have to.
But I'm saying is that the day on the contract should match that date.
Right.
So if it's the 21st, it should be the 21st at the
But
bottom.
oftentimes you'll say, you'll be at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and your client say, I'm gonna sign it tonight.
Right.
So you put the sign date as today, and guess
Wait
what?
till tomorrow.
They don't sign it till the next day.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Then
you
you have
can't,
to
if you
modify-
have it digitally done, couldn't you go in there on this date
Not
on the
once it's,
calendar?
not once it's signed, you can't change
Once
it.
you
No,
alter
before
it.
they sign it.
No.
Yeah,
I'm
so.
talking about before they
How
sign
are
it.
you,
you could
how
go-
are you going to alter it?
If you have your documents digitally, couldn't you, see the calendar? Can't you just punch in the date they're gonna sign
Yeah,
it?
you could change it
Yeah,
and
that's
then
right.
resend it. yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to change it here, not on DocuSign.
And
You know
there's
what
a
I mean.
quick
I know
way.
what you mean.
Yeah, we know.
I've heard,
We understand
it's like
each
you sit
other.
on this side of the table.
That's right.
So basically at 10 o'clock at night, when you figure out that your clients haven't signed it yet, you go in there and there's a place where you can replace the document. So you'll have to change this, then basically re-upload the new
Yeah.
version,
Yeah, but it's a multi-step process. It's not like I just go in there and
change it.
erase it and change it. It's a PDF, printed
Yeah.
PDF, so you
It
gotta
is
go in there and
hard,
change
it takes time, you have to do it, download it into your desktop and then upload it.
It's not
and
that
then-
hard.
It just takes work. It's not like you can just do it, it's not easy. I mean, it's not quick, let's just say.
But just be
Yeah.
conscious of that. So whole point is try and make sure that your dates match up.
Okay, you know what, actually, the bigger one is let's zip to the bottom here where it's, we're actually, we jumped to now the very, very end of the contract where it talks about offer time and acceptance on item 25. This is where, okay, I've had clients, we really want the property, we gotta sign, and so you put it together. We don't wanna give them a lot of time to think about it, right? Because you think if you give them 2 days, they're gonna get another offer, and then that's gonna get you in trouble or lose the property, go into multiple bids. So you wanna give them, okay, just gonna give them till 5 o'clock the next day. But the problem is if your client delayed and then doesn't get it signed, or when they sign it, the problem usually comes, they sign it, and now I'm still trying to present it, but I'm really only giving them like 6 hours to accept it.
Right.
Sometimes that gets you in trouble. Not your fault.
For the most part, it's just better to give them at least 24 hours.
Yeah, so one of the best practices is to ask the agent, say, great, I'd like a fast response on this. How fast do you think you can get your sellers to respond to this offer? Okay, it's just a question, right? So
Save you some time.
It will save you some time, because I've written up offers and they're like, look, we got like 3 buyers, we got 3 sellers and one's in Jamaica right now.
They're all
So,
in town, yep.
it's gonna take at least 3 days to respond to this. And then it's just one, and they're right, then they gotta write an addendum, and then they gotta, it just makes it more complex. So just find out from the beginning how long it's gonna take. Okay, property, section 1. What do you put here?
The property address, or depending on the situation,
Should you always put the tax ID as well?
I usually do, yeah. I ask for it anyway.
It does ask for it, so yeah, you should put it.
I think it auto-populates when you do it through the,
Yeah, it will auto-populate, which is great.
I've got it done.
So it's like, just to make sure that we're all clear, I'm not only gonna put the address, I'm gonna put the tax ID.
Sometimes the person number.
You can even put the referenced MLS number, so that you're like, okay, all three things, so that there's no misunderstanding on what property we're going to buy.
Might as well just print off the sheet before you even start. It's got everything
It
on
would
it.
be embarrassing if you actually got an offer on the neighbor's house but submitted it to the other agent.
Awkward.
All right, so included items. So let's just read this because it's worth reading, just for our, okay, Gabby, 1.1, what are included items?
Unless excluded herein, this sale includes the following items if presently owned and in place on the property: plumbing, heating, air conditioning fixtures and equipment, solar panels, ovens, ranges and hoods, cooktops, dishwashers, ceiling fans, water heaters, water softeners, light fixtures and bulbs, bathroom fixtures and bathroom mirrors, all window coverings including curtains, draperies, rods, window blinds and shutters, window and door screens, storm doors and windows, awnings, satellite dishes, all installed TV mounting brackets, all wall and ceiling mounted speakers, affixed carpets, automatic garage door openers and accompanying transmitters, security system, fencing, and any landscaping.
Yeah, so those are by default included.
I have a question.
Fixtures.
Yes.
Solar panels.
Did it say solar panels?
On
Yeah,
must
they
be.
have
It's-
included it.
Yeah, it's just the
Sometimes
It
fixtures.
you
should
will,
say,
The
yeah.
brackets.
sometimes you will have to write a separate addendum depending on if they're
Yes,
leased or owned.
Yeah, those are,
Okay, so the same problem with solar panels is the same thing with security systems. Is like, hey, you can have it, but I'm paying Vivint $70
Yeah.
a month, so you're welcome to keep it. You
Right.
can just take over my contract. But then the buyer's like, well, I don't want to pay $70 a
Right.
month. Well, that's like, Vivint, I don't know, does Vivint technically own the components?
It depends.
And you're basically just leasing them? Anyways,
You
those
can
are,
buy the components outright, or you can lease them, you have options.
so, but
depends
right
on the
here, it's
situation.
saying that they're included. So here's a technicality. If the seller signs this, but Vivint security is not owned by them, they basically, per contract, they'd have to buy it out and give it to you.
Is this referring though to those security systems that are already installed in the house that don't
Yes.
have any service to them, like they just make a noise?
but if it's not theirs to sell, like say you have your neighbor's oven, right? Like you can't sell your, like, it's
Then that
in
should
the
have been in the
house.
listing
So,
exclusions.
yeah, so
Yeah, it's not gonna
that's
be-
where as a listing agent, as a.
You have to write it on their
You
contract.
gotta know when you talk to your seller, hey, do you own this security system? Tell me about it. What's the monthly payment on it? How many more months do you have left? Does it work without the direct service? Like if you have the Ring doorbells with the video monitoring, and so it's just worth asking.
But specific to solar panels, I'm just curious because I have a situation. And there's when you buy the solar panels, you're buying you're paying it off in a loan, basically.
Yeah.
So how do you negotiate that?
Well, you don't own them then.
No.
I mean, you
so-
own them, but you still have to pay those
Yeah,
off.
like $25,000.
So-
So that should get paid off at closing.
Yeah, so it's kind of
But do you ask?
hurts the seller.
I understand that, but do you ask the seller for more money because it has solar panels?
Depends on the
Did you
situation.
bundle it into
So
the price?
is solar
That's
panels,
negotiated.
did we read solar panels in this?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's right there.
Okay, so in essence, what they're doing is,
Second
it's like saying I'm including my couch. So they're, in essence, by signing this, the solar panels have a lien against the house. So unless they uninstall them,
Yeah.
since they're hardwired to the house,
Like they
since they
damage the
put,
roof.
Yeah.
since
exactly.
they've already damaged the roof by putting holes in it,
Yeah.
it's cheaper generally and safer just to leave them.
Right.
So, they were trying to save a little bit of money on electricity, and if they've only had them a year. I had one person who had them for a year, and they cost them, it was $40,000 of panels. The problem is when we talk about these panels and the value of the house, the appraisers for a long time have not been giving solar panels any value.
Right.
But if I could buy a house where I have basically zero electricity bill for years to come, doesn't that have value?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of a mortgage, you know, every $50 that you don't have to pay is worth $10,000 in value. So if I saved $150 a month by not having to pay electricity bill, I'm, in essence, it's equivalent to like a $30,000 mortgage. So yes, they do have value, but just an FYI, they don't have a value to appraisers.
But they will negotiate it, so basically, title's gonna make sure that's all cleared up, and whether they take over the payments
Right.
or they pay them off, that'll be decided before.
So it's worth a mention. So tell me about your,
So
when you're
it's
making
separately
offers,
negotiated?
tell me about the solar panels. Are they included in the purchase, or are you guys gonna be
So,
taking them down?
All that stuff.
I noticed you
need to know.
didn't write it, and then the agent's brand new and say, oh, I didn't realize we needed to.
There's actually a solar panel with them.
I didn't even ask them. Oh, why don't you go and ask them, and we'll figure that one out.
Wait, so do they have so this possibility of to take down the panels and just leave the brackets?
You're gonna ruin the,
Yeah, well, they shouldn't, no, if they have to restore the roof to its
Okay.
Natural state.
natural
it's
state.
gonna cost more.
But, I mean, how many drill holes do you put in the roof when you put those panels up?
So they
That's
don't have
the
to stay
problem.
with the house?
Do they have to restore, I mean,
Well, you
I
can't.
mean, you're buying it
Well, then
as
it's
it-
back to,
with what
then it's
it
back
is,
to
right?
inspection. Hey, I noticed like 50
No, there's a
holes in
leak.
my roof.
yeah, I know.
So I'd like those sealed up, please.
What about this house for a religious experience? It's very holy.
Oh, I just wrote the.
Wait, going back to like the
Right,
section real
just
quick,
ask.
earnest money.
Yeah.
Oh, earnest money, yes, yes.
Does it have to be in the form of a check always? Could it be money order?
Okay, so Gabby's got a
Just
great
give cash.
question, and this is the one that we deal with.
That's the only thing.
So if it's cash, that means did they give you cash?
But it cannot be in cash, right?
I've heard it can't be cash.
Oh, it can be it could be in the form of donkeys. It can be,
Whatever's acceptable.
remember,
Donkey.
it just has to be something of material value. It could be in the form of
The
a
cows.
deed to my car.
Okay, but yeah, I don't know, I hope I don't.
Okay, but so what we're saying
Outside.
is that we have something worth $1,000, and what it's in the form of? It's in the form of money, American dollars, right? So we're saying, and I've received a check from them, okay? The important factor here is that after acceptance of the REPC, the buyer and seller and receipt of the earnest money by the brokerage shall have 4 calendar days, not business days, 4 calendar days in which to deposit the earnest money into a real estate brokerage account. Or sorry, I skipped.
4 calendar
So we
days.
have 4 calendar days of acceptance to get the money.
It's on Sunday?
So in bold right
Holiday?
here, let me highlight this.
Weekends.
So look,
Includes weekends.
Yes.
all right, so this part right here,
But deliver.
this part right here is they have to give it to you within 4 days. So Gabby wrote an offer last night. If it's accepted today, when's the 4 days? So today is, what is today, Thursday? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. No later than 5 p.m. is always the standard. 5 p.m. on Monday, you have to have received it. And then what this section down here says is that when you receive it, we will write the receipt of earnest money that we've got it, and we'll send that over to them. But then I'm required, and when I say I'm, Kristen's the person who does it. She will deposit within 4 calendar days of receiving it.
Interest.
So it could take up to 8 days before it's actually deposited, but our general rule is when we receive it, we'll deposit it. The only times we may not is if it's, I don't know, like
Holiday.
7 o'clock on a Friday, and you put the deposit check on our desk, and then, we'll come back on the next business day and deposit it. So that's why you have 4 days, so it counts for longer weekends, holidays, sick days.
But it could be money order, cash, or check, on the usual thing, right?
Yeah. You say I got a money order.
No, it has to be checked.
Okay, what I recommend to you guys is do not accept cash. You do not want the liability of actually accepting cash. You also want it trackable. Banks want to know, oh, that check that has the borrower's name on it. If it's cash, like an FHA loan requires that 100%, I think it's 100% of their down payment comes from the buyers themselves. I think there are some gift provisions, but the problem is if it's in the form of cash, no one can track it. We don't know where the source of it is, and that earnest money has now become part of the deposit, which is untrackable.
Which can be paid towards closing costs.
So where I at Coldwell Banker, they don't want a cashier's check. They want a personal check to go.
Because cashier's check
track-
counts as cash.
Yeah, you can trace it back to their
Yeah.
account, making sure where the money.
Oh, no, cashier's check.
Interesting.
I mean, that's what they told me, but I don't know how.
Is-
If
as long
they
as
need to
it-
count
if-
the money towards their down payment.
If it has their name on it, like I'm saying, I don't have a problem with it. Like, if money is money, but do not accept cash, because cash is liability for you.
Cashier's check.
Because what if it's typical? It's the idea is that what if I give you $1,000 in 20s, and then you go count it up and it's 980. You're like, oh my gosh, where'd one of the 20s go? And he's gonna say you stole
First
it
ticket.
or you lost it. Right now you have the liability of losing it. Anyways, you don't want that liability.
So we can do cashier's
She
check.
took the 20.
If they put it, based
No,
on.
you always recount it out in front of them and have a receipt.
I said you took the 20.
Yeah.
If they want
Drop
Well,
it
And then he convinces them they only gave him.
Check, so it
to,
should.
or money order.
Okay, we deal with this all the time.
What I was told too from the lenders, and
check.
it's better for them, was it the lender? I think it was title. That they were just saying that they wanted, to be a personal check so they could just, it's
just
easier to
track.
trace. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what I just said.
Did I miss that?
Okay, sounds good.
Good. Yeah,
Thank
personal
you.
check. It's basically trackable and it's not for us, it's for the lender. But don't accept cash, not that you can't accept cash, it's just liability of losing it.
No liability.
Like, and I don't want Kristen to have the liability of holding it. It's also much more tempting for people just to take a little. It's, in there.
And if they know we're holding money, we get crowd.
Okay, so basically, there's a lot in there, and as a listing agent, you need to know what your sellers want to include. But right now, unless otherwise stated, like all those blinds that they had installed are included, all their ceiling fans, water heaters.
I think the biggest
Bathroom
fight is
mirrors.
over like the curtains, because some people love their curtains and they want to take them. So you just have to make
Curtains
sure
and
it's,
drapes.
you just have to make sure you put it in exclusions.
Sometimes
What
you
about
want,
the TV
sometimes you want to
brackets?
exclude the curtains.
You have to include the TV
'Cause they're
brackets.
ugly.
and only
They're
Right.
with you.
And some
Unless-
people have to
Unless
you have to
excluded.
remove it or exclude it, right? The TV brackets?
If your client wants.
Or
it.
like a projection
I
system?
actually I thought that was interesting, mounted TV brackets. You're like, well, it's my TV, of course I'm gonna take the bracket.
Right.
No, it damages the wall because
Yeah.
it's fixed to the wall.
Yeah, so what you should do, if you're gonna remove the brackets, you should repair the wall.
Yeah.
So that,
Even the.
Otherwise, if you're not gonna repair the wall, what you should do is take down your TV with the holes there, so that when they go under contract,
They've seen it.
they see the holes and then they give an offer and they do their inspection with the holes there, knowing that they're there. What pisses people off is when they come to the house and you have 4 TV brackets and now they got 4 large holes with cables sticking out. They're like, I don't have a TV, I'm not gonna put it up there. And
And they didn't see it before.
yeah, they didn't see it before.
And then
It's
they'll buy that
just those
TV.
little things that you think they would think through, but they don't. So
Yeah.
until they see it, it's
I had one listing and they had pictures everywhere. Everywhere. So when they took it all down, it was just like a bunch of holes. They patched them all up, so there's no problem. But you would never have thought, oh my goodness, that was a lot of holes on my wall.
so generally, what do we say is excluded then? Like,
Usually the fridge.
okay, so it's appliances, or all appliances generally excluded?
No,
they
just the
don't.
fridge typically.
Washer and dryer, right?
Does it
Yeah, washer and dryer.
Does it say dishwasher in the standard inclusions?
Yes.
Yeah, does it?
Dishwasher,
Yeah.
included item, second line.
Yeah, I mean, generally, if you have to like drill it in and, you know, it fits to an area, or if it was like a custom refrigerator that, you know, you have a nicer home that it's like a cabinet refrigerator that looks all nice, like generally that's gonna stay because it's now built in.
I'm finding more and more people like to leave refrigerators because no one wants to.
No one wants to move that big old luggy thing around, all right?
Yeah.
And then it doesn't match with the suite, because you leave half the suite there, you might as well just go buy a new suite and get over it.
Or they're buying a brand new house, right? And their refrigerator is old, so they're like, yeah, I don't want to take it. It's an old black refrigerator, and they want the stainless steel one.
In our last house, we had to get a refrigerator they had in there when we bought it, and I was just like, so we had to go buy another fridge. Now that's
Yeah, more people complain that they left the fridge
Yeah.
than complain that they didn't leave the
Yeah,
fridge.
I was like,
So if all these items, if they are included, or if there's anything else that you want to include, like you could say here, that brown sofa in the living room, and I want the scale in your bathroom, and I want,
Well, especially like in Park City where they're selling homes that it's all furnished.
yeah.
And so they'll actually have an itemized list of everything that's in there.
Wait, so your seller, Claudia, what is she doing? I thought she wanted to sell some of her furniture. Is she not?
Well, she's open to it. So if that becomes the case, then we'll create an addendum with a list of furnishings that will stay.
Okay, but in the
Have you
contract, it
guys
just says
ever-
nothing is included.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever had to use the bill of sale? Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's counted as a gift, right?
So look, right here, I just pulled it up. First, yeah, I typed bill, personal property transfer agreement and bill of sale. So you basically pull this up and fill it out.
there's a form for everything.
So basically, title also often can produce a form for us, a bill of sale form. You just tell them what to include in it.
Does this have a way to pay?
What the lender wants to know, in essence, it's really a lender thing. It's not about the real estate contract that's important. To the lender, like if you're buying a house, what they want to know is, okay, let's say you're buying a Park City house. It's $2 million. Well, is it $2 million and the furniture is free, or is it really 1.8 million and then there's $200,000 in furniture? And so appraisers aren't supposed to appraise personal property. They're just saying, what is the house worth? Because personal property inside the house doesn't last like a house will last. So that will come and go. It'll be used, it'll be broken, it has to be replaced. So the bank will only appraise up to the value of the property. So if you've come to an agreement, if it says included furniture, and you know that the price is higher because it's including it, the appraiser's gonna have to justify whether that's accurate or not.
Plus, you can't roll that into their loan.
Right, in essence, you can't roll it into a loan because you're basically buying furniture on a residential home
Well,
loan.
basically what they do is that the furniture is free if the appraisal comes in high enough.
Correct, that's what, so usually the appraiser, I mean, usually these things don't affect value if they're like the refrigerator and stuff like that. It usually doesn't generally affect the value of the property unless they have extreme value. Like I'm including my car in the sale of this house. Like, let's say you're selling a farm
Yeah.
and includes a tractor, all the trailer stuff,
Livestock.
some livestock, like those are now business or personal
it can
property
die.
that have to be purchased outside of a home loan, unless some sort of loan allows for that. But that is a different kind of loan we typically don't deal with. Okay, so let's go back to the contract.
1-4.
Okay, so water services. Well, right here, basically, you say are not included. This is 1.3 is where you can say what is not included. Okay, so that's where you would write solar panels are to be removed or excluded. And the assumption is that you're gonna fix whatever may be damaged. I'm gonna remove my TV brackets, do all that stuff.
What about mineral rights?
It's another.
That's, yeah, so what did they teach you in your classes?
So typically, if it's like a subdivision that's owned by the builder, they typically will have the mineral rights set up on it. But if it's like an out freestanding piece of land, you have the opportunity to have the mineral rights as well, depending on whatever
Whatever they
case may be.
pre-existingly own.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, so,
It's kind of like in like 1.4 with the water rights. I think it's similar.
Yeah, there's probably
That's another
separate
contract.
stuff. Because I know some people can own a piece of property and somebody else can own the well, or somebody else can approve, you know.
yeah, so.
But in here, it's automatically assumed that if that person already owns it and it's with the property, that it will stay with the property unless excluded.
Yeah, good data.
So, I think, this is not my specialty, so I'll just speak lightly on it, but it's one of the ideas that in order to transfer water shares, that's a separate paperwork.
Yeah, because no one owns water rights. They all have to get it to the
Okay.
state.
So on some of our listings, it will talk about water shares, but when you buy the house, as far as I understand it, those water shares just don't automatically transfer to you. You have to put them in your name, and there's some paperwork to that. So just know that they may be included within the agreement, but they don't automatically transfer with the title company giving you the property. There's like, you know, the idea is that when you buy a piece of land, you don't just buy the ground on top, you buy the ground
6
like,
feet, 6 inches under or something like
no.
No, all the way to
that.
the
Down the core.
So all the way like, yeah.
Yeah, so
All the way.
wait,
And then all the sky above.
so,
Up to a certain.
yeah, so there's certain rights that you have. I forget how high it is, but you know, obviously planes can fly 500 feet above you, so I don't know if that's the limit, but
They
In
did
Peru-
settle
in Peru-
some
I don't know.
money.
I don't know if it's the same here, but in Peru, like when my parents sold their house, they actually sold the heirs, they call it,
They-
separately.
They actually have a
Separately.
story like that in the
Interesting.
school where like Donald Trump building had sold his airspace above, or bought someone else's airspace so he could build a
Yeah, they
taller building than everybody
separately.
else.
They do it separately.
Interesting. Wow.
Mhm.
yeah. So just know you have this. I mean, so basically that's the idea is like if oil's underneath your property, you know,
Belongs to you.
you have some claim to that oil. Or like, where's they're doing like fracking for the natural gas.
The shovel.
So like there'll be a house community here and they'll drill and then they'll drill
Go under.
sideways. And then they'll
And everybody
basically pay
gets a percentage.
royalties to these guys for their ability to pull natural resources out of the ground.
What did they do with my dad's house?
That's what you want. You just want to buy a house on top of an oil field and then they can pay you for the rest of your life. You're good.
My dad negotiated contracts that he got 0.5% where all his neighbors got 0.25%.
He was smart.
So he got $15,000 a month, a check for oil rights.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to section 2, purchase price. Okay. All right, one of the things here that you need to be aware of, see what's highlighted right here? Okay, this is the most common mistake. This and this line have to match. Where I get in trouble is like, let's say the house is $300,000 and I write the offer up. And then my client comes back and says, no, I don't want to offer $300,000 anymore. I want to offer $298,000. Okay, so I'll quickly go in, I put $298,000, and then
Change that.
I forget to change this. Or let's say I do $298,000, but remember, it's with a different purchase price. Now you got to change the loan because it's, let's say they're doing a 97% of the purchase price, so you got to adjust the loan as well, and
I've
then
seen-
recalculate it all.
I've seen more and more offers come in with to be determined. Like they'll put their offer price and the earnest money and the purchase price, but the in between, they've been
Interesting.
putting TBD.
Okay, that's a great.
For them.
That's a great question for us. So let's say you're representing a seller and you get an offer that says TBD. Is knowing the loan important to the transaction?
I like to know because I like to be strong there.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. Why is it important to the transaction?
Because it depends on what type of loan it is, depending on whatever the factors are. If there's multiple offers in play, sometimes some loans are longer than the others, and you want to be able to get the best deal, basically with the easiest process for your client.
Well, and so
Well, if I
it'd be
see someone-
stronger if somebody's coming in with 20% down, doing a conventional loan like that, versus somebody who's doing a fully financed loan, you're like, and they might not be the stronger clause.
Well, isn't a cash offer better than a loan?
And a cap.
Okay,
So basically, the more down payment, the higher earnest money typically gives you more confidence. Or if things go wrong, higher earnest money gives you more compensation for the troubles of putting it under contract with somebody.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does matter. And what I actually really question, I don't think they've been pre-approved. If they say TBD, what do you mean?
Yeah.
I had 2 offers.
You don't have your approved. You don't know how you're going to buy this yet. That means your finances aren't figured out.
I don't know, I think it was from the same brokerage, so I think it must be something in their training, but the 2 offers that I received had the TBD and they had pre-approval letter, and I talked with both lenders and they were pre-approved. I don't know,
Interesting.
it's a tactical thing, I didn't think it
Could be
was.
tactical, I agree. Could be, maybe.
I don't know, but I don't see how. it
I
benefited
disagree
them.
because I think it's there for a reason.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
and,
fill it out.
but we also know that it can change.
Okay, yeah, so that's a good question. So what if,
That's what they're.
well, okay, so you're under contract and let's say at first they're doing a
Typically,
conventional
they
loan.
wouldn't do that.
So let's say they're putting 20% down. If they decide to only put 10% down, does the buyer have to tell the seller that the loan conditions have changed?
No,
Are they obligated to tell the seller?
no,
Is that a material discrepancy?
no.
No.
Carol's pretty confident.
It says in here, goes over it.
The answer is no.
I took the class.
They don't, the loan is one of those things, in essence, all that the seller really has to know is can you buy it or can't you, and that you have a financing period to do your appraisal and to get your final approval. After that, anything in between, it doesn't matter. Materially, it doesn't matter, as long as you can close within the agreed deadlines.
So I closed one in December and they did that. We had 20% down, but then they decided they wanted to do some fix-ups,
Yeah.
remodeling, and so then they only put 10% down. So they could have cash to remodel.
So in the new agent course, they mentioned that this has to reflect the deal complete, like, and I don't know, and what the lady was saying was that anything, if this is different, if the deal is different than what the lender has in paper, it could be considered fraud.
Oh, yeah, you want to make sure that.
And so, yeah, and
So we're only talking, well, we are talking
So
specifically,
maybe
when
that's
it's,
why they're
when it
putting
is
the
submitted,
TBD.
it does reflect the deal, but we're saying, what if the loan conditions change?
yeah.
As long as they meet the deadlines, it doesn't matter.
Could that be why they're putting to be determined though? They don't want to set anything down. I don't know.
I think that's a weak strategy, unless,
Yeah.
like, cause I'm gonna ask them flat out, okay, so what's your down payment? I personally, I've always felt that's important. My dealing, or, is,
'Cause that adds to their strength. Like it
so,
adds some-
so one of the disclosures is the FHA addendum, right? Just by submitting that addendum, you're telling the person what kind of loan you have. And in some ways, you're also admitting that you don't have enough money for the closing costs and the down payment. So you need their financial help to buy their house. So if I have an FHA addendum, but then this says TBD, it just doesn't, I don't understand why you just want to fill it out, personally.
Could say TCB.
What is that?
Take care of business, baby.
Okay. So one of the main takeaways is I recommend you guys fill it out. Make sure the numbers add up. Just do your math. And usually you get in trouble when your client asks you to change it and then you forget, it's late at night, you've worked 12 hours already. That's when you make your mistake. Because you're tired, you're just like, I just need to get this written up and sent over to them. I'm so freaking sick of them. And that's when it happens.
Are you
If they
Mrs.
would have signed this at 3 o'clock, they said they would. That's what we do.
Okay, Carol, what does 2.2 mean?
All right, 2.2. Okay, buyer's ability to purchase a property, obtain the loan referenced in section 2.1 above and/or any portion of the cash reference in 2.1 above is or is not conditioned upon the sale of real estate owned by the buyer. If checked in affirmative, the terms of the attached subject to sale of buyer's property addendum apply. So basically, if they have a contingency to sell. then
Yeah,
all-
this is your contingency form. This used to not be its own section, but now it is. So, right off the bat, as a seller, I would want to know, okay, do they have to sell their house in order to buy my house? Why is that important to a transaction? Fundamentally, why is it important?
Because it's conditional upon the people buying their house, if they're gonna be able to buy your house.
It could delay the sale.
Yeah. It's that question, what's in their control and what's outside of their control? Selling their house is outside of their control. Now, of course, they've decided to sell it, but they have a buyer who pulls the strings on that, because the buyer's the only one that's able to cancel, because they can't force the buyer to buy. So
So there are
it can fall out.
circumstances and factors that make it go.
Carol and I's, so it was my listing, she helped me, but we had 4 different properties, 8 different people involved in the transaction.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Oh, it's closing on the same day.
so there was a guy in Richmond who was selling his house. Okay, so there's a buyer and a seller. The guy in Richmond was moving to Duchesne, who there was a buyer. He was the seller, but then he became the buyer. And his purchase was contingent upon the sale of his house. Then the person in Duchesne they were the one that was buying our house, right? Was there one more step? Anyways, I think, so it was 3 then. So then they were buying my listing in Eagle Mountain. Oh yeah, so here's another one. So they were buying our listing in Eagle Mountain. So we became we became the seller. And then our sellers were then buying another property in a townhome in Eagle Mountain, downsizing. So we became then the buyer. And then that seller was just selling. So we had 2, 4, 6, 8 total sides and 4 properties in 4 different areas, and they were all contingent upon each other.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so it got really, it worked.
That's all that matters.
No pressure.
Oh, seriously, like statistically, it probably had a 10% chance of working. Just like, because anytime you have a house to sell, you're like, okay, that decreases your chance of them buying it by 20%. So just right off the bat, you say if you have a condition to sell your house, you have a 20% chance, a higher chance of not closing. But you had 4 other people, oh my gosh, it was going down to 0, but we're like, it was the best offer and the highest one we had, and it was starting to take too long to sell, and we're like, okay, we'll just take it. And I was like, every several days I was calling everybody to find out where everybody's at. And, hey, I found out the agent who was representing the person in Duchesne to buy, she was also giving me information on the person selling from Richmond, so I was getting kind of like, how's it going? Now, luckily enough, when they put the offer in, the original offers were already more than 2 weeks into their deal. So they had gone basically through their due diligence. That's your greatest chance of failure right there, or cancellation.
Good times.
Good times, good times. Okay, settlement and closing section. Section 3, item 3, 3.1. Andrew, you want to read that?
Yeah. Settlement and closing. Settlement shall take place no later than the settlement deadline referenced in section 24D, or is otherwise mutually agreed by buyer and seller in writing. Settlement shall occur only when all the following have been completed. A, buyer and seller have signed and delivered to each other or to the escrow closing office all documents required by the REPC, by the lender, by the title insurance and escrow closing offices, by written escrow instructions, including any split closing instructions if applicable, or by applicable law. B, any monies required to be paid by buyer or seller under these documents, except for the proceeds of any loan, have been delivered by buyer or seller to the other party or to the escrow closing office in the form of cash, wire transfer, cashier's check, or other form acceptable to the escrow closing office.
Cashier's check.
So I'm going to keep going, 3.2.
Yeah, any questions on that? Basically, they have to have everything before they can close.
Should finish up.
Where does settlement occur in Utah?
And the title.
At a title company. Do you have to use a title company?
No, they'll meet you places too.
Well, you're still using a title company.
Oh, yeah. They'll come
Do you
to your
have
house.
to use a title company in the state of Utah?
I think. I'm trying to think what you don't have to use.
Because it's
Not these home inspector,
If you don't use a title company,
but
you have to use a lawyer.
But you have to have a lawyer, yeah, correct.
It's cheaper to use a title company. But yes, pretty much title companies we use. Interesting thing about Utah is you can have 2 different title companies involved. We're only one of 2 states in the entire United States that allow that. So if you go to California, if they want to use First American Title, guess who the buyer's using? And the seller gets to choose. The seller chooses because they're the one paying for the title policy.
Unless it's cash, and then you have to use the sellers.
Yeah, or if it's bank owned as well, like, yeah.
New
Yeah.
builders too usually require you to use their title company.
And using the same title company just simplifies the deal. It makes communication easier. But
I've heard of times where having 2 is helpful though, because one will catch something that somebody else didn't.
I guess that's one way to spin it. But they're paid to get it right, so, and they're third party, so they shouldn't be doing anything suspicious, nefarious.
Yeah.
Okay, closing.
I'm gonna finish out section 3.
Yeah, section 3.2.
All right, closing. For purposes of the REPSI, closing means that A, settlement has been completed, B, the proceeds of any new loan have been delivered by the lender to seller or to the escrow closing office, and C, the applicable closing documents have been recorded in the office of the county recorder. Recording. The action described in 3.2B and C shall be completed no later than 4 calendar days after settlement.
Okay. So that's the big takeaway here, right? 4 days to close. I've had delays on closing. I can't even remember what it was. There was some sort of document issue that came up.
Oh, was that the one where we had done a remote signing and the notary put all the documents
Oh,
in
yeah.
the UPS trackable document except for the warranty deed,
Like the most important.
the most important one,
That
so
was
we
signed.
couldn't record because they have to have an original to record.
So of course, we told her,
And it
she
was
was told the
Labor
next
Day
day,
weekend.
but by the time she did it, of course it's a holiday weekend, right? It's always a holiday weekend when something goes wrong. And then by the time it's sent out, it was like 3 days later that it finally recorded. So, but technically as a buyer, you're in contract for 4 days, but after that, you're in breach of contract. So 4 days would be if you sign on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Friday after 5 p.m. you're out of contract, technically. That came a problem when I was doing loans in California. The market was red hot. I mean, there was 1 year home prices went up 24% in a year. 24% in 1 year, and you already have a $500,000 house.
Wow.
It was insane. So what was happening is that as a seller, you're like, look, 30 days have gone by. I've just made another $30,000, literally, on my house.
So was not
And I had,
with you then.
and it led to a shortage of inventory. I got people telling me they want to buy my house. They're almost wanting you to cancel. And unless they were tied to a buy too, but if they were just selling. And so people would get livid if something went wrong and they couldn't close, because when that house went back on the market, it was more expensive for a little bit. So in these crazy markets, like if you can't close, like the seller would be like, bye-bye. They would take your earnest money, put it back on the market, and get a new buyer at a higher cost. So anyways, stuff like that can happen. Seen it? I've seen it.
But, so does the client have any, can they correct this at all? They don't have any, they don't do anything with the closing, right?
It's a little
They stop
outside,
at
it's
settlement.
outside of your control.
Right.
Typically it's errors that happen. That's why they give you 4 days.
That's the title company, right?
Yeah.
Deal.
But it also gives you time, think about it this way. So let's say everything's going right, but they only work, the title company only is going to do it on business day. So you sign on Saturday at 3 o'clock. And then it's Labor Day weekend. So you have Saturday, Sunday, Monday. The fourth day, day number 4,
They transfer funds.
is now the day you're going to record. So that's why they give up the 4 days as well.
So what's the best day to do settlement?
Well,
Or in your opinion?
typically on a Thursday so that people can move in on over the weekend.
Thursday.
I mean, most people have weekends off, generally speaking. And so, like, it's great to have that time to move. So you sign on Thursday, and then usually around 1 or 2 o'clock on Friday, they close, you give them the keys, and then they have Friday afternoon into the weekend to move. Depends on their schedule, I mean.
Talk to them and see, some people will say, like,
Yeah, if you sign Friday, you're not recording until Monday.
some lenders, I've worked with some people where they're like, all right, if we sign at this time in the morning, they'll be recorded. Just talk to them that same day.
Well, but that's assuming that the other party signs early in the morning as well.
Well, and if sometimes they've already signed, they can be
Yeah.
already signed.
Yeah, so if you can
Just talk
coordinate
to them.
I mean, it's all about communication. You can say, hey, look, we'd like to close early, so we need you as sellers to sign at, early in the morning before noon. We'll sign before noon so that we can get this recorded same day.
We were told Wednesday, so and if anything comes up, they said it Thursday too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably better.
I'll let you. Yeah, that way if something comes up, they didn't get the documents, closing documents out on time.
Right.
And it gives you an extra day or two.
Yeah.
But I mean, I had set one up for like a Monday, and it's got pushed to Friday,
Oh my gosh.
you just never know.
Yeah, you never know. So now you know, and you can give your clients the correct guidance. Just be careful as agents not to intermix terminologies. Yeah, we're going to go to closing. No, you're not. You're going to settlement.
I'm horrible with
People
that.
say closing all the time. You're not closing.
I say
You're giving them the wrong idea of what's happening.
Correct.
So use the right. We're going to sign documents. If you want to describe what you're doing, we're going to settlement. What's settlement? Settlement is where you sign all your paperwork, and then the title company takes over and settles all the debts and transfers of ownership. Conveyance, right?
And a lot of times too, we'll have, because they're waiting on the sale of their house, they have the date that we close on our house.
Oh, yeah.
So we have to wait.
My favorite misuse of the word closing are sold. That's typically the word realtors will use is, yeah, I sold their house in 5 days. Wow, you sold it in 5 days? You transferred ownership in 5 days? No, I mean, I got it under contract. I got a contract accepted. So most sellers will interpret under contract as sold. I sold my house in, such a short time.
Just started the process, just started the race.
No, because it might not go through.
Exactly, yeah. Sold is, okay, so
It's not sold until it's closed.
sold is synonymous to me with recorded, unless you have a different definition in your mind. Because under contract means committed, sold means recorded, like it has sold and transferred to somebody else. But people don't always use that word. So. Okay.